the game is individual for each of you. It is not a spiritual game. We are not talking about the seeking of spirituality as if it were a game. We are talking about your life as the game. In that, every time you have a challenge, you may assume that you have reached at the next level. And in this next level, you have a new boss that you have to fight and overcome. And that will be in the form of that particular challenge. Hi, this is Jessie Herman, and you're on Your Superior Self.
Jessie, thank you for taking the time. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Oh, doing well. You reached out to me a while ago. We've been so busy. We're finally now landing a spot to interview, but I really resonated with your story, where you came from and this spiritual path and where you're at now, right? And doing this work. So yeah, I mean, you also live in Italy, which is one of my dreams. So that's not too bad, is it?
It's pretty wonderful. Yeah. If you like pasta and wine, it's the right place to be.
What's the energy there?
It's a Catholic country or a Catholic traditionally country. So there's a lot of church involvement in the general population's subconscious. And so it's a little bit slower maybe than some of what's going on in the rest of well, not the rest of the planet, but in general, with the acceleration of people opening up. But Italians are wonderful people who are excited about finding out about new cultures. They're excited about finding out about things that they don't know about. So it's a lot of fun to be here. Yeah.
Mm. I can just only imagine the pizza there.
Oh yeah, it's not what you have isn't pizza.
Ah. How do they accept channeling?
It's hard to I do openly speak about it like at a dinner party or if I meet people in general, and they really don't know what I'm talking about. But again, the openness is curiosity more than anything else. There's not like oh, that's not real, or I don't want to hear more about that. It's oh, I haven't heard about that before. Please tell me more. And that's really a nice energy to come across.
I always love that in a conversation, right? Like, what do
Yeah.
you do for work? Always comes up, right? Like,
Yeah.
do you ever like kind of do you hesitate when you say that, or are you just now like, yeah, I'm a channeler?
Well, I tried, there's also the language barrier, obviously. So there actually isn't a word that's that well recognized as Chandler in Italian, so
Really?
it kind of comes down to like more mediumship or spirit communicator. Like it has to be a bit translated out of, channeling, which would be canalizzazione, but that kind of falls on like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what does that mean? So, I have this joke sometimes, like if someone's really not getting it and I have to like go like, okay, do you know what a channeler is? There's like, no, I don't know what is that? Well, do you know what a medium is? No, what's a medium? Well, do you know what like someone who talks to spirits is? And they're like, well, what do you mean talks to spirit? I'm like, well, I'm a witch. Okay. All you need to know is I'm a mystic, I'm a witch. That's it. Like, let's have more pizza, basically, at
Let's
that
have
point.
more pizza. Yeah,
That's
for
right.
sure. When your spiritual gifts started developing, were you still in the
Mm-hmm.
States or were you in Italy?
No, I was already, well, they've always been around. I'm Canadian originally, and then I lived in London, England for 4 years. But when sort of like the big opening up happened for me, I was already in Italy. So it's actually not that long ago. It's what, 5 years now, 5.5 years. Yeah.
How do you think, like in Canada, right? Are they well receptive to the modality of channeling?
I think so. Yeah, I think Canadians also are extremely open. It's pretty much on par with the States, and the majority of my audience is either American or Canadian.
I feel like there's a more receptive, kind of welcoming to channeling, right? I personally think it's an ancient technology that we all
Hmm.
have.
Yeah.
Um, and now we're just kind of opening ourselves up to that possibility. Like it's okay for you to channel, but I can't do it, right? Like, but obviously, I think that we can. I have had instances in my experience in my reality where I've channeled messages and like kind of did my own discernment with that and actually found it to be quite astonishing as far as the results that I received from that, and then
Mm.
the actual evidence that came into my physical reality from that. I was like blown away, right? Like I don't believe anymore. I know, right? Like so. Talk about your journey, right? Like when did this start for you, and when did you start accepting it as, um, you know, your modality moving forward, how you communicate and how you teach people these teachings?
Sure. So my backstory is that I guess I always had some sort of oddness to me or extrasensory perception, which was as a child a kind of not accepted by my caregivers, not accepted by my parents, people around me. So, the weird kid and, too much imagination and too much up in your, head, focus on school, focus on this, focus on that. It's very hard to get me to be grounded and focused. And as all kids do, your parents know best. So obviously, if it's just my imagination, it must just be my imagination. So I kind of put all that on the back burner and turned off a lot of my abilities in that way, which I didn't know at the time were abilities. Just thought I was strange and I had to stop talking about aliens and ghosts and whatever else was going on with me. And then fast forward to, all of my young adulthood, my adolescence, into living in England, being out on my own and, corporate life and job and everything like that. And so, life was busy, through my 20s and 30s. And yet, and I had my children. So I think when I first had my kids was when I started to become more spiritual as well. So when my daughter was born, I had a bit of trouble with postpartum depression, but I didn't have time to go and get help, and like stoic, like I gotta do this. I have a new baby and whatever. So I started meditating. We find our ways to care for ourselves, and meditation was a way that I came to that. And through meditation, my curiosity about the spiritual path opened, and started finding my teachers and people that I resonated with and going inward. And as that began to occur, these gifts started coming out again. So knowing things, claircognizance or seeing things, visions, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't want any of that. I had learned as a child that was weird and not acceptable. And so I didn't really want to dive into sort of like what you said earlier, like, oh, it's fine if you channel, but how can I channel? I didn't want to channel. I didn't want to have anything to do with it or be a teacher. But I had this pressure, this sort of sensation of pressure coming on me all the time. And eventually I got fed up with the pressure, and I decided to see what would happen if I tried to get rid of the pressure by convincing whatever this energy was that I wasn't a channel. And so I hit record on my phone, went into a meditation and expected to hear nothing, but there was just talking there, and it hasn't stopped since. So I had to accept it, because shortly thereafterwards, I met some people who were interested in channeling. I channeled for them. And when I realized that the messages were really relevant for them, when I was doing it for myself, it was like, okay to keep it a secret. But when people were having benefit and really resonated with things or having breakthroughs due to these channeled messages, I realized, well, actually, this thing doesn't belong to me. I just happen to be an instrument for whatever this energy is. And, I have to have the courage to accept, first of all, that that's who I am. And also that, I'd be holding back on a gift that I could give to other people if I wasn't, generous with this thing. So that's where it all started.
So you said something about aliens and spirits. Do you see those as well?
Well, that aspect of my abilities I can still turn off. So if I walk into a room, like, party tricks type of thing, if I walk into a room and I want to scan the room and see if there are, spirits in it or something, there's some energy there, yeah, I can turn that on. I prefer not to, because guaranteed every room there is something going on. And from my experience, that energy can be as much of a trickster as human energy can. So, kind of what's lingering around in certain levels of energy frequency are not necessarily beneficial to tune into. So there's the ability to tune into a range, but I prefer to do by channeling and to stay out of other ranges, if that makes sense.
Sure. It's interesting because I've been doing some writing recently, right? And kind of about how the podcast for me started. And it's funny, I just made this connection right now. There's a verse from the Bible. Like, I don't really quote the Bible that much anymore. However, there are some verses in here that I think are kind of interesting. Like, for example, this, which is Job 33, verse 15 and 16. In a dream and a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men and slumberings upon the bed, then he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instruction. That's kind of channeling, right? I mean,
yeah, sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's in the Bible, right? So we're good. I mean, for all those that are scared to death right now, right? Like of
Yeah, well,
channeling
there's the Bible and the Old Testament, New Testament mentions channeling a lot. You've got all your prophets, you got all your people who are hearing the word of God. You've got, all this, all these beings who, they were considered the prophets who were connected in some way with the ability to access that level of information. So to me, all of them were channels, whether it's Abraham or Moses or whatever it is, to have that access. And again, I do believe we all do have that access, but it does take a certain configuration or life experience or whatever for you to say, okay, I'm gonna accept that I have that access. We all have it, but it does take that leap of faith to go, okay, all right, I'm listening, and that's really the probably the difference
it takes a lot
between.
of faith to say, like, is this not my voice? Is this like
Yes.
something else not, I wouldn't say outside of me, but is it something that I can trust, or is this
Yeah,
me making this up? It takes a
that's
lot of
right.
faith to say to yourself that this is coming from a higher being or a being, and it's for my betterment, right? Like,
That's right.
instead of saying, hey, it's my imagination, I'm going to write it off. I mean, there's a
Well,
lot of faith there.
there's still that possibility, right? I've never sort of 100% said, okay, yeah, this is definitely a thing, right? Because from all I know about the way the human brain works, it's possible that, yeah, it is some sort of tapping into this super subconscious that we haven't yet studied and scientifically hasn't yet been explained, that, because my brainwaves go to a certain level, blah, 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 right? I'm able to imagine stuff to that, to that accuracy, let's say, if it was imagination, right? Either way, I kind of go like, if it has benefit and people are benefiting from this and they are going out and they are being, their better selves for others, and they're spreading kindness and they're having confidence in themselves, they're feeling empowered to follow their dreams, and they're better with their families, etc., then whether it's me and I've imagined everything I'm saying, I don't remember it and have like some glitch in my brain, or it's actually an external energy source that is communicating, I figure as long as the result is good, then I'm good with it. Like that's where my experience is.
Now, do you remember the conversation that you have with clients and or when you're channeling?
The way I explain it when people ask this question is like, if you were like a child in the back seat of a car and like dozing off at the end of a party, you won't know which route your mom took to get home. And you might hear a bit of the conversation that they had on the way, the things they talked about, especially if they mentioned your cousin or they're gossiping or something that picks your, your interest. But the majority of it, no, I don't remember. And it's actually very difficult even to try to recall like the topics. Probably if the person right after is like, oh, we talked about that, then I might go, oh, right. And at that point in the channeling, I saw this vision or I saw this metaphor or whatever it was. But it's very difficult. Yeah.
Have the channelings, the messages from the channelings, have they changed? Have they evolved over time?
Um, Not really. It seems to be the same message a lot of the time. Have faith in yourself, unity consciousness, we're all one. And explaining that in many different ways so that it can be digested by different people who come from different backgrounds, who come from different, brain configurations or experiences, etc. But the messages themselves seem to be very, very similar consistently. What might be evolving is the way in which they're delivered, the speed at which I'm able to channel, and then the nuances, like people come with different topics. So, like a lot of people have been coming lately for some reason with relationship topics. So it seems like, everybody wants to know how to find their perfect partner and what way to navigate that and the complications and communication, etc. So it seems to be that's a theme that's coming up a lot. Whereas, health was a topic not too long ago, or, finance even before that was a topic that came up a lot. So it really depends on who's joining and what they want to know, and
Sure.
the framing of that. Yeah.
What has been like the most powerful message to you personally, right? Like, what has been their channeled message directly for you that when you received that message totally changed your perspective on life?
So in a nutshell, it would be that whatever you are, like whatever you believe to be the configuration that you are, right? That is the perfection that existence wanted to be here in this now moment. So if you think you're not good at something, right? Not only is that perfect, but even you having this insecurity at the moment about that thing is perfect. And even you not seeing the perfection in it is perfect, right? So once you begin to understand that you too are part of this natural world of materialized energy, that like you're as perfect as a leaf on a tree, you're as perfect as, you know, the cloud in the sky was created by existence to be exactly as it is. You start to be able to experience existence as that perfection. And this isn't like, oh, I'm so perfect, I get everything right. It's everything is right. And I'm a part of that, everything being right. And that really allows you to navigate the world and existence in a new way. And I would say that's been my biggest gift, because it gets really easy to not identify with things because you're no longer really a part of it. You're kind of pulled out into the everythingness of existence. So that's been beautiful.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you can identify the energy of Vagrein, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it probably is different than some other beings that you have channeled. Have you channeled other beings?
I don't really channel other beings, but it definitely is different than the energy of other beings that, well, that I can interact with. For example, I've had a couple of experiences where someone that I've known has passed away, and they'll have a message for a relative or something like that. And in the two cases that's occurred, where that's come sort of almost uninvited, it's very easy to identify this person as who they were, in their living thing. And that's a completely different energy than this Vagrein energy, which has its own signature. It really is a question of like the frequency is very, I can feel it. It's palpable.
Do you feel it around you right now?
Yeah.
No. What about source energy? Have you ever been able to channel into that?
Well, the thing with Vagrein is they're not really indiv- individuated. So I would exchange those as the same thing. Like I don't identify Vagrein as like an entity group. They say, okay, it's an entity group, but that is just an explanation in order to use words to explain a concept that we don't really get that easily.
So are they
But
the source energy, like God energy? Is that what that is? Or does it even like is it all the same anyway?
it's all the same anyway, in other words, because those terms, those words have
Labels.
baggage. Labels have baggage. And so,
Containers. Yeah.
right. And even the label Vagrian, obviously over time is developing its own baggage, right? But to me, it's more okay. So the way I would see it is Vagrian is source energy the way I would put together that recipe if I were creating source energy soup, right? The same way like a musician, when they put together a song, they're composing source energy into something that is their composition of how that's flowing through them. So I don't really identify them as like a second step from that. So it's not like source, then them, then me, or then the channeled message. It's more like, okay, the individuation or the reason that comes across that way is because it's going through my brain and going through my body and coming out that particular style or flavor or, you know,
Do you
using that
yeah,
palette.
absolutely. Do you see anything, right? Like when you're channeling, can you see anything with your third eye? Do you see anything physically, like a being or anything like that that you would identify as a being?
No.
No.
So I do see like if Agrian is transmitting often when they're transmitting like analogies or metaphors, I'll see what they're speaking, but like the visuals of it. So sometimes they'll talk about fractals or multiverse, and instead of me hearing what they're saying, I'll get these like epic movie outlined visuals, right? Which I can't even describe afterwards. I can't tell you what that was because it's so detailed. It would be like it's just the transmission coming in, and for some reason I'm receiving it in my visual cortex. So I see the fractals. I see if they're talking about like a person being in a billion other people at the same time. I see that. Now, how would an artist even depict that? It's not it's not something that makes sense. So that's the kind of thing I see. Sometimes I'll see relatives, like seems like some of my other skills will kick in, or if someone's asking about their guides, I might see something then. Yesterday I had someone ask about a guide, and I saw very clearly the being that Vagrein was like, ask them yourself, because Vagrein also won't tell someone directly like, hey, your guide is this guy. They're like, if you have a guide and you know you have a guide, like go and communicate with your guide. They're very much trying to empower people to not use them as a middleman.
Well, how many guides do we usually have?
Oh, I don't know. I think it varies. I think you can have infinite guides potentially. I don't feel like I specifically have guides that I can identify, but then other times I have done in my life. So like it's really interesting. And that answer's never been answered concretely by Vagrein by any means.
Of course not.
No.
Why would they?
The vagueness of
Takes all the fun out of it living here, right? Oh, it's awesome. Cool. Well, you mind bringing them in or whomever this Vagrein is, right? Like,
yeah,
hanging out for a minute.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. Takes me a few minutes to get into trance, not very long, and then they'll just start talking. So you just have a conversation with them the same way you're having with me. They're as flexible. All right.
Did they have a sense of humor at least?
They do, but it's so like they have no delivery. So it's so flat. Some of the things they say are quite hilarious to me afterwards if I hear them back, but they're so flat. And then they'll be like, "Did you enjoy our joke?" Whatever. We'll see if that comes through. Definitely. Through. All right. So I will see you in a little while.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Good now to you. We are pleased to be meeting with you in this now and are eager to speak with you and answer anything that you so choose.
Thank you for taking the time.
We have no time.
That's right. Where are you right now currently?
We have no location.
So how do you channel through this entity?
The energy of what is, much in the same way that you call into your daily experience, your personality, has an open window to be able to use this particular vessel in this particular manner with consent, with permission to come through. Whereas in a normal day-to-day experience, this particular vessel, this particular brain and body composition is in the process of calling through its regular personality, its regular isness, its regular essence. And in this permitting, a stepping aside, a shifting over, a making space of the energy to come through, we have the ability to be able to share with, to transmit, to have you receive anything that might be of service to you in this now moment.
Where are we headed as a society, as an Earth civilization? I feel like there's an energy change coming. Where are we headed?
Yes. You are headed not only where you choose as a majority to head, which at times may seem as if your choices are in folly, but also where you as an individual choose to head in that. It is the combination of these two factors that will determine the reality that you on a personal level, not only you, but all those who would listen to this transmission would like to find themselves. In other words, yes, there is a collective that is heading towards the choice of either an awakening or a self-destruction, and it is the individual who is choosing which of these particular storylines is most appealing to them. And we would have you know that it is not always obvious to one which storyline they themselves are choosing. For example, if you are taking your cue from circumstances and are looking at the world around you and you are seeing only negative things, negative circumstances occurring, then you are focused upon them. And therefore, even if you are saying that you are not wanting these things, you are not necessarily taking steps towards the alternative, taking steps towards making sure that in your day-to-day experience, you are being the change that you would like to see in the world. Instead, perhaps you are focused on these negative things and you are fretting, you are worried, you are continuing to discuss these negative things with those beings around you. And in that, you are calling that more and more into your reality. Therefore, even though you believe yourself to be on a path or on a decision of wanting a beautiful world, wanting a world full of love, you are still playing that game of separation where they are doing something wrong. They are the ones who are not changing. They are the problem, and not focusing where you do have your power, which is in this now, in your own decisions, moment to moment, based upon love and joy. And if you do choose moment to moment, decision to decision, to base your choices on love and joy, you are heading towards a loving and joyous experience of humanity, not only because reality will morph to meet your intention, but also because in your now, day-to-day, moment-to-moment, you are focusing on love and joy, even if the world outside is crumbling, even if there is fire and brimstone. Because you would not see it, because your focus in those moments would be, where can I share my love? Where can I be giving? Where can I be joyful? And you would find them. Therefore, humanity is heading in a direction of your choosing, but you as an individual, being the creator of your particular reality, are the only and ultimate decision factor about the reality that you are choosing within the humanity trajectory.
Being an individual in my own reality, is that a concept from the multiverse?
Well, everything that is aspect of the multiverse, or the multitude of multiverses, the infinite supply of isness of all that is, the anything you can imagine and much more that you cannot does exist simply because everything does. But your, yes, reality, your creating of your reality is not only a concept, it is actually your direct experience. In fact, it is the only direct experience that you have ever had, because everything that you have heard about the experiences of another self has not directly on your skin, in your consciousness, been proven to you. The only thing that you do know for a fact is that your reality is the one that exists. So we are not saying disregard the reality of others. In fact, knowing that your reality is so fundamental means that you then have the ultimate control over it, which means also that you are a sovereign, independent, empowered being that, if we're to choose to step out of any fear or pain that they're experiencing and instead have an ideal life for themselves, they would not be naturally causing pain for any other self, because there would be no need to. There would be no fear of another self harming you, because you would know that it is your experience that you are in the process of creating through your choices. And if harm were to occur to you in your experience, that outside of that perception of that harm, there is a learning or a blessing that is hidden in whatever is occurring. And in the understanding that your own experience is the only one that does truly exist, you also know that you are responsible for all of the creation that you are seeing around you, and therefore can make choices in order to ameliorate or improve the world that you have around you.
Can you talk about past lives? Is there really past lives, or is it all now?
It is all now. They are parallel. The ones that you believe yourself to have as past lives are information that you are getting from a parallel, you can say, universe about yourself, or about a aspect of you-ness that is in close proximity of vibration to you, that is transmitting those informations or memories to you in order for you to perhaps not need to repeat, or not repeat exactly, but to share in your partnership of what might be useful in this life from that life.
I've come across some teachings recently that reincarnation is a trap for souls here on Earth, for higher beings to feed off of for emotional energy. Is that accurate?
We would ask you if it feels accurate, if it feels good to you. Because if it does not, then your higher self, your inner being, your soul, your understanding, your isness of what is not in direct accord or agreement with those statements. We have not yet found a being who has heard a statement such as that and has said to themselves, this is wonderful. I am so eager to believe this thing, and I believe that believing this will serve me to become a better human being, to have a more joyful life, to have a more joyful existence. We would teach that anything that does not feel good to you, and when we say feel good, we mean feel empowering, feel freeing, feel resonant, probably is not the direction in which you would like to head with your understanding or your beliefs. Because if that were to be the case, then what on earth would you do about it?
What do individuals who have near-death experiences, what are they experiencing, right? Like they're told to come back. It's not their time. Like, what is it about that makes them come back, right? Like some people say they don't want to come back and they're forced back into their bodies. What exactly are they experiencing in that moment?
Yes, these beings, some of them have the theme of coming back in order to share their experience, in order to awaken humanity. In fact, you have heard many stories. You have been inspired by many people who have had this experience and have come back, and they have been centered in themselves. They have understood that they are not the body, that they are not the ego, that they continue their lives, that they are here in order to share this message, this information, that there is something else, because there has been so much talk of the ideas that there is not something else, or that there is only the materialist aspect of existence. And when you die, your consciousness ceases to exist and does not have a continuation. These people have had experiences where they directly, in their direct experience, on their own isness, know that there is a continuation. And it is interesting to us that you guys do not know this even after your experience of waking from sleep in each morning. It is memory that sometimes confuses you into believing that there is linearity or that things are as they should be. And in this remembering that you woke up yesterday and waking up again today, you forget that it is a miracle that you can reconnect over and over and over with this body of yours. So these beings, yes, some say that they feel forced back, but in this being forced back, they have come and they have not left again in the meantime. They would have had the pleasant sensation of not having the struggle of their human existence, in that we often say that you agree to come to humanity in order to have all the sensations, including those negative ones, because it is very exciting to you. It is delightful in many ways for your spirit to have that. But many of you, while you are here, get very tired of the suffering or the struggle that you're perceiving. And as soon as you have an experience of not being physical, much of that pain does end. But we assure you that there is no rush to get to that state of the non-physical nature of yourself. You can tap into it also in your physical existence if you so choose, through meditation, for example, or through much deep relaxation techniques, or tuning your brain to those states. But these beings that come back have come back in order to open up more and more of your perception of what is possible.
Can you speak to the genesis of the human species? Did we evolve over time, or were we genetically created?
So your understanding of evolution does not apply directly to what you are referring to as the human species, in that there is not a direct linear movement from your most recent, what you would call ancestors, to the what you would call most recent human or bipedal Homo sapiens, or the humans that you would consider yourself to be now. So yes, there has been aspects that have helped you to evolve or to become what you are currently understanding yourself to be by skipping some steps. There's not much more we can say on this subject without infringing upon free will, that each being should and can go and seek within themselves what information resonates and what does not. Because much in the same way that your future is dependent upon your own point of perspective, your past too is dependent upon your own point of perspective. And you are creating both of these fictitious moments in time in this now moment.
So the future self influences the past self.
The now self influences both the future and the past.
Talk about destiny points, right? How should I word this? When we come into this life, are we destined for certain things to unfold, or do we create from the now moment?
It is both, in that you have a blueprint or a plan of execution that you simultaneously in this now, in the moment that you are pre-incarnation, is occurring in this now moment, in a space that is non-linear. Again, this is why the concept of time is so difficult to wrap one's head around, because right now you are also pre-incarnate. And in this pre-incarnate state, you are planning your destiny points, as you have put them. You have created your soul contracts with other selves that will come and play the games with you. You are planning out your life, giving yourself the characteristics that you will need, planning which family to have, for example, and what location to be born in. And in this now moment, bringing it back to this direct conversation, you are also now planning your future destiny points. So it is, yes, destined for certain things to occur, but they are occurring, perhaps, if you need to talk about time, only a nanosecond after you have planned them to occur. They are destined infinitely and have just been written in this now moment.
Are there ascended masters?
This would be simply a question of your definition of that term. There are beings who do choose to no longer have incarnation experience and to aid from a non-physical perspective, who have had in the past physical incarnation. You are all masters, ultimately.
Is there anyone, how should I word this? Is there a savior coming to save us, or is that our jobs to do from within?
Yes, it is entirely your job, in that you are the savior.
Was there a being named Jesus or Yeshua that walked the earth?
Yes.
Is he still here?
His energy, yes, is. It is a energy that anyone can tap into at any given point in time if they so choose, and to benefit from, in that the guidance that is offered to all. And you know this from your scriptures, it has been written, but that guidance of that particular energy that you are identifying as this being is available to all those who would ask for this guidance. However, as always with guidance, when you ask for it, you will be given it, but you may not choose to listen to it. You may not choose to receive it. And you may find yourself at odds with a guidance, for example, that tells you to love your neighbor as yourself, and you really truly do dislike your neighbor. Therefore, you may not take on the guidance that is offered to you. But we assure you that when tapping into that energy, not the stories about that energy, but directly tapping into that energy, you will have guidance that will lead you to have a joyful and loving and life full of the benefits and the fruit of the service that you can provide to others.
Is our reality as we perceive it really an illusion?
Yes, but you know this as well, because even if you were to take a microscope that was powerful enough and look at your skin, you would no longer see skin. You would see the space in between the molecules that make up your skin, or between the atoms that make up your skin. And you would not see anything that resembled in any way to skin whatsoever. In fact, take it back a little bit. You do not even need to zoom in that far, and you would see the billions of little monsters that are climbing all over you at all times, that are the bacteria that keep you alive and keep your skin healthy. And these too are reality. So it depends what you would say. Is your reality an illusion? Much of it is. Much of it is a construct. Much of it is what you believe about it. But reality itself is far vaster and simultaneously the complete void of those space between the molecules.
Have you ever incarnated here on Earth?
No, but we are simultaneously incarnate in all that is.
So I guess my question is, like, if you've never been a human, how do you know the human suffering?
Because we know all humans, and we do not directly have experience of this suffering in this now, but we are hearing your calls and we are able to perceive of this suffering. We cannot necessarily relate to it. In fact, that is why, in part, we cannot communicate with each of you in the way directly that we would want to. We do need a translator of sorts and attempt to work in conjunction with this particular translator, with compassion, with love, with what we can access in order to help to alleviate what we do not even see as suffering. In fact, you are correct. We do not understand the suffering, but we do understand that you perceive it as suffering. And perhaps in the things that we share, we can help you to see things slightly more the way that we do, and not to change your humanity, but to allow you to decide if you would like to change yourself.
If we were all able to change collectively, would we ascend to where you're at?
We already see you as where we are, in that to come and be human is to not be ascended to experiencing in every now moment the all that is. This is available to you, yes, but you have also chosen to have this direct experience of being human. You have chosen to come and get your hearts broken. You have chosen to come and have conflict and struggle to overcome in order to feel like you have won the game. And so the challenges that you face and the heartaches and the suffering we just spoke of that you face is of use to you. And in accepting that this really is the game that you wanted to play, this is the illusion that you wanted to be a part of, this is the space where you can create anything that you would like to, you can be in a state of enlightened bliss while human incarnate. So yes, in theory, if you were to all one day understand everything that we share in transmission, then you would become absorbed into the all that is in the way that we identify ourselves as, or in the way that we see ourselves as. However, it would not be of use to you in that action, you would be losing all of the joy and benefit of being human in this now.
You mentioned the game. We've come here to play the game. Is there different levels to this game? What's the last level, if there is? And are there bosses that you need to conquer on each level?
Yes, it is a good analogy in that the game is individual for each of you. It is not a spiritual game. We are not talking about the seeking of spirituality as if it were a game. We are talking about your life as the game, in that every time you have a challenge, you may assume that you have reached at the next level. And in this next level, you have a new boss that you have to fight and overcome. And that will be in the form of that particular challenge, in the way that you choose to find the tools, the resources on that level in yourself as well to overcome whatever it is you are being thrown. And the more challenging the thing that you are facing, the more likely it is that you have set yourself up for a bigger reward at the end of that level, or a bigger prize. So when you meet your challenges, we would say to celebrate the fact that you could not be where you are, you could not be in the stage of life without having had the ability to arrive there. And then to know that there's something waiting for you if you choose, and when you choose, to get through the challenge that you are being faced with.
What is that is waiting for us?
A next level.
So
in that it is the playing the game that is delightful for you. It is not the putting the game out of the machine and putting it on a shelf to then go out and buy a new cassette. In that, you want the infinite game. You want the game that continues until you, yes, perhaps meet the last challenge, which is accepting your own death, perhaps.
What does it mean to die before you die? I've heard that recently in a lot of different teachings, but what does that truly mean?
It can be explained, we suppose, as allowing yourself to come to that conclusion that you will have upon your leaving of your physical vessel before you bother to leave your physical vessel, in that nothing really does matter. And yet, in it not mattering in this way, everything suddenly becomes extremely significant because of the fact that you only have a certain amount of time, let's say, or you only have a certain amount of energy to play this game. So if you know that it is a game, which you will upon your departure, then while you are playing it, you do not take those things so seriously. You do not take things so personally. You imagine yourself as if you are no longer here, and in doing so, have access to tools that you would not necessarily have had otherwise. So it is a perhaps shocking statement that can wake people up to the possibility of finding these tools. But for us, it is more of a pointer towards the tools being there in the first place. You do not need to live your life as if you are trying to survive, which is often the case when people are riddled with fear or anxiety or the next crisis or the next relationship crisis, even, or the next financial crisis. People are so concerned about maintaining their survival that they do not live at all. But if you were to let go of that concern, let go of the fact that you do not want to die, and know that this is an inevitability, you suddenly have the freedom to be able to, yes, of course, take care of yourself, but to no longer be preoccupied by the thing that maintains the attention of the majority of the beings on your planet. We have time for one more question, if there is.
Sure. Last question. You said this is a game and there are tools. Are those tools like cheat codes for these realizations within the game?
Yes, and also they are not even cheat codes in that they are plain sight and available to you. Much of the tools, for example, are the real appreciation and love of self, the acknowledgement of the beauty in the other selves that are here as collaborators with you in this game on these levels, the appreciation of your surroundings and your environment, the appreciation and gratitude for the fact that you get to exist every day. And these things in themselves are in plain sight. There are also so many resources available to you. These messages are not new. We do not say anything that has not been said before. No one does in reality, because all of the energy that is being given to you really are the instruction manual for how to get through each of these levels, how to get through the game, how to up-level yourself, and yes, reach states of bliss and joy that perhaps otherwise you would not have reached.
Thank you so much for taking the time. This has been an honor to be in your presence. I really do appreciate it.
We also have had a lovely time, and with that, we leave you with the light and the love of 1,000 suns. Anai.
How do you feel?
I feel good.
Yeah.
Top of my head is killing me though.
Why
Every
is that?
time I have I don't know, but every time I have headphones and I channel, it's like a nail running right through my head.
You
So
need to get some earbuds.
I know, but then they fall out. I'm worried they'll fall out when I'm channeling. So
That was pretty cool. That was pretty awesome. So you kind of have no idea what was discussed?
let's see. I'll give myself a moment to see if anything came up. Sometimes the visuals will give me clues.
I'm interested in the visuals.
Yeah. So you talked about Jesus. I got that part.
Mm-hmm.
Talks a lot about like time. It's past lives. He talks about past lives. Ooh, there was something right before that. That was interesting, but I can't grab it.
I guess
But
you have to
there's,
watch the episode.
yes, I will totally. Yeah, there's something right before the past lives question. Oh gosh. Okay, I will totally.
That was awesome. I did ask them, right? Like just you know, if they had ever incarnated as a human, right? And they
Hmm.
have not. And so like
Yeah.
my question follow up was like, if you haven't, how do you know human suffering?
Hmm.
What's your take on that?
It's what's my take on that?
I mean, it's a tough thing, right? I mean, human
Yeah.
suffering is very unique.
Do you think do you think you have to be, I don't know. Does one have to be human to understand human suffering? Like it's
I'm
pretty
sure they
blatant
hear,
the way that,
yeah,
right, like we're all running around.
I'm sure they hear our cries, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm sure they know, they have an idea. Like these guys, something's going on the earth realm. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but they're all chanting and they're all crying for help. So let's go
Yes.
figure it out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And some of what they originally said about like when they were coming through was that like they only come because we're asking, we're like asking them to come through. So, they're always around, but like this new influx also of like not just them, but like there's a lot of channelers coming up now, and there's a lot of people coming in with these same messages, new teachers, lots of evolution now, even on the understanding of spirituality or understanding of the non-physical self, that past 5 years has really been coming in. And I feel like that's coming through a lot of people because we're asking for it. We're like, oh man, we need an answer. Like we don't, this is not working. We're not like,
Sure.
this is not the way we need to be going. So
Sure. I
yeah.
know for sure. Like I'll take all the help I can get, right? Like if I resonate with it. I don't
Sure.
want to influence other people. However, I know that my reality is my reality. My truth is my truth. Has there been like a truth for you or a teaching that has stood the test of time over your evolution?
So I think that's the key with resonance, right? I think that resonance is you hearing someone say out loud what's already vibrating in you. And that sort of like synchronous, like that tuning fork thing of people saying that thing and then it coming to resonate with you, um, is my guiding compass, right? So I've had tons of experiences where like there'll be different teachers that I resonate with, but it's more the message than the specific, like something can't really stand the test of time because everyone's evolving. So there might be like more distance. It's like an accordion between certain teachings or the person's direction or stuff like that. So I don't have someone that like I specifically have followed over, time. But I do know that the messages that I resonate with, it doesn't matter whose mouth they're coming out of, like they're the same. And so I do have my ears open to like, well, what am I needing right now? Where's it going to come from? Because I really feel like it's the same energy just coming through different people. And it could be a song, or it could be like an amazing teaching, or it could be a retreat I go on, or a new type of breath work or anything. Like I'm a big experimenter, and I'll find the thing that works in this now moment and let everything else go. So
Mm. Well,
yeah.
I've truly enjoyed this now moment with you, and I really do appreciate you coming on the show. It's been fabulous. How can people connect with you?
So people are always welcome to go to my website. That's www.jpherman.com. And I'm on YouTube and I'm Instagram and I'm look up Vagrein, Vagrein. And really, we're the only thing that pops up, which is also super weird because the internet does not really work that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
But
The whole time
yeah,
I'm worried if I'm going to say Viagra, right? Like,
exactly. Like, yeah, you go on Amazon, you get like all these like these vaginal products. I can tell you it wouldn't have been the name I chose. So I definitely didn't make that up.
Jesse, this has been awesome. We have to do it again sometime. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Absolutely. I've really loved it. And thank you so much for having me on.